Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aden, and today I have the joy of introducing you to someone I don't really even know. I met her through a podcast with someone else, Tennille Miller, and I asked Tennille, I said, "Is there anyone else out there like you? Someone that's interesting and exciting to listen to and brilliant, frankly?" And she goes, "Yeah, let me think about that." And about a week later, she sent me um, an email and said, "You have got to interview my friend Cali." So, ladies and gentlemen, Cali Ressler, she's with Accenture, Director of Talent and Organization Consulting, Global Employee Experience. So, we all know Accenture, but what do you really do?
Oh,
What's
I love that.
minus the title? What do you really do?
That is a great question, Greg, and one that I wish I got more often, I guess. So first of all, great to be here, and big shout out to Neil for making this suggestion that we meet each other. So what do I really do? I will say that I make work more human
Hmm.
for everyone that's doing it. I believe that work is a contribution that we're making
Hmm.
to other people and society. And we deserve to have that contribution feel like something we want to do and we're excited to do each and every day. So I help organizations get to that point where people have the perception of feeling like they're being treated respectfully, like they're being treated for the um, knowledge and expertise that they bring in a way that makes them want to keep working there.
Yeah, knowledge and experience that they were probably hired for or attracted to or attracted by initially. And I love what you said about make it more human because my my wife and I have these conversations all the time, and she hears some of the things I say and do for other organizations, and she says you say you say ladies and gentlemen a lot, and she's encouraging me to see them first as humans, then women and men, and some of them, we're in between today. A lot of us are theys. I'm
Mhm.
not. I'm just who I am. But I believe that's where it all starts, doesn't it, Callie? We are human beings first, then we're men and women, and then we're a title. But even before that, aren't we parents, partners, spouses? And then, oh, by the way, we do what we do for work.
Absolutely. You read my mind, Greg. That's exactly where I was going as well. So yes, number one, we are all humans, and I truly do believe that as a human race, we have fundamental needs, all of us, that
Hmm.
spread across, every single person in the world. And exactly from there, the next thing that we are is who we are to other people. So that first level is like who we are to ourselves, right? And what we need from that perspective. But yeah, after that, I mean, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, I'm a community member, I'm a granddaughter, I'm a niece, I'm a cousin, I'm all these different things before I become, oh yeah, and then I'm this employee who contributes at, XYZ organization.
Yeah. Isn't it funny though, Callie? We put so much time, money, and energy into our title of who we are when we're paid and how we show up for others, an employee. And we're definitely going to get to the employee experience because you don't know much about me either. But that's kind of where I start. But it's about the customer, which you also believe is why we're here. And I'm also a big tombstone person. I realize no matter what you do, you being Callie, you being Steve, you being the CEO and a big ass title, it will never end up on your tombstone. So why don't we just be human and see what ends up there? And by the way, you don't get to write what's on your tombstone unless you want to say, I demand my children to put this on there. And quite frankly, you can say that and they won't. By the way, you're a mother of four. Is that what I read?
I am. Good memory. Yes, four children.
Well, you wrote a heartfelt article, and I won't get into it. And again, I love your vulnerability. When I read your article about, I think it was your second, after your second child. Wow, thank you. And People don't share that because they want to hide behind this mask of perfection. And have you ever met anyone that's perfect, by the way? I mean, absolutely perfect, other than your
I laugh.
husband?
I laugh. No, even he, no, he would probably agree with me. He is not perfect. No,
No.
absolutely not. And I think for a long time, if I'm honest with myself, I was afraid of coming out from kind of behind that curtain,
Mhm.
uh, because I wanted people to perceive me in a certain way. And so, what Greg is referring to anybody listening is something that I wrote that basically brought to the surface for the world to see that after having my second child, I really started to experience a lot of symptoms of what I was then diagnosed with depression, then with anxiety. And so I've had a lot of, I would say, not only experience, but episodes with those things. And I've had to learn lots of different strategies for coping. But I will say that one of the best decisions I have made in my entire life is to decide to be very open about
Yeah.
that piece of myself.
Thank you.
And absolutely. And this has only been within the last probably 3-ish years that I've gotten to this point. And I encourage anyone who is listening to, think long and hard about, what it is that you're doing. If you are keeping some of that inside, how that's affecting you. I
Yeah.
realized for me, it was very, very heavy. I didn't realize it at the time, but the lightness that I feel now is something that I am very grateful for.
Yeah, and back at you. And until I pulled my head out of my ass, frankly, in 2010 or 2011, I was 18,000 feet up a big mountain in Argentina, had about 4,000 left to go. And but meanwhile, I'm climbing a mountain, Cali, with a pregnant wife and a newly adopted son at home. And who does that? Well, someone who's arrogant, egotistical, maybe a little narcissist. And I had no idea that words like compassion and humility and empathy even existed because I was a producer. I was chasing numbers, chasing records, getting awards. The world thought I was great. So I mentioned earlier, Callie, about the employee experience, and you kind of have this reimagine how approach. So take us down that road, and where do you start and where do you stop with the employee experience, and how do you make Accenture and perhaps other clients or the clients you do work as a consultant? How do you help that experience get better?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's actually a lot more, I think, in depth than a lot of people and organizations realize. When you hear those two words, employee experience, well, first thought sometimes is, well, what do we offer for people, right? What kinds of programs do we have? What kinds of resources do we have for people? But I strongly believe that the experience that someone has isn't about everything they have access to. It's about perception. It's about their perception of the sum of everything that they are exposed to every single day. So, what that means is that if we look at someone's, end to end employee experience, it starts before you're even employed, right? It starts with what I perceive about different organizations. What am I reading? What am I hearing? What's the word on the street? What's that brand? Then it goes right into, what's my experience applying to this company? Am I getting communication?
Hmm.
Do I understand where I'm at in this process? I, get my offer, I consider that, I accept, hopefully. And as I come in, I mean, just onboarding in and of itself is
Yep.
its own very large experience that people go through. So everything from there, up until the point where I'm growing, right? I'm learning, I'm collaborating with, internal colleagues, with external customers. I'm, going through different training experiences on the job or, through formal training programs. I'm being rewarded. right? Like, how am I being rewarded? How am I being assessed for my performance?
Yeah.
All of these things are part of that perception that I then have about my experience with the company. And I will say, Greg, it even goes to, if I choose to leave the
Yeah.
company, then how is that treated, right? Like, as I become an alumni or an alumnus of this company, how am I still able to have a relationship with this company that I was part of? And so I would say, all of that, when it's put together, is the journey of employee experience. And, getting back to what you mentioned about the customer, I mean, I'm probably with you preaching to the choir here, but as the employee experience gets better, so does that customer experience,
Amen.
right? Which seems logical. It seems so logical, but
Yeah.
it's amazing how I was just actually in some conversations earlier where we were talking about employees who are expected to perform in a certain way when it comes to serving a customer, but yet they themselves as employees are not feeling respected or feeling like their thoughts or ideas are being heard. So the question then is, well, how do you expect them then to turn around and provide exceptional service to someone else when they themselves don't feel like they are being served?
May I answer that?
Yes, go ahead. I'd love that.
You can't. You can't expect
That's right.
your
That's right.
employees to provide exceptional experience when you as a leader are not providing excellent leadership. And I didn't say management or supervision. I said leadership. And that's what I do for a living. And I'm in 32 years in hospitality. So it's really easy for me to get the guest experience index, which is what IHG and Marriott and Hilton and all the companies focus on. But there's two questions that of all the surveys you've answered, if you've been in hospitality, travel, that really matter. Not the fluffiness of the pillows, how warm was your water, did your chocolate bars taste good? It's, will you repeat?
Mm-hmm.
Will you return? And will you recommend? Now think about your
Mm-hmm.
your employee experience. If you don't make me feel wanted and seen, heard, appreciated, valued early on in my relationship, why would I stay? Other than it's great money and you leave me alone, but that's not even an experience. That's just having a job somewhere in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're being treated well, you're going to tell your friends, I love it here at ABC Flooring or ABC
Yes,
Leadership. And if it sucks, you're going to say, I wouldn't apply. I'm out of here.
that's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
it's amazing. We don't think that way because we believe we've arrived and we can just tell you what you need to do all day and then behind and believe it's leadership, and it isn't. So I don't believe there's enough managers who want to be leaders who understand what you just said. And we are responsible leaders to give the experience that we may have wanted and didn't get, but we now know how to do it. Just because they sucked treating you well doesn't mean you have to treat someone else that way. So I said all
Yes.
that. What say
Yes.
you? What do you hear there?
Oh, well, I mean, I've been nodding profusely because I think that we're conditioned in a certain way because of what we've experienced. And so what we know is one thing, and we have a choice. I think that's, as you're talking, I'm thinking,
Yep.
yes, we all have a choice every single moment, every single day to decide, do I want to take the road that, was kind of laid out for me that I had to walk? If it was good, great. Then
Yep.
I'll probably decide, yes, I'm going to walk that same road. If it wasn't good, that's my choice. Do I want to take this route of, well, I went through it, so I'm going to put you through it too,
That's
or
smart.
which I have unfortunately seen more of than I would have liked to throughout my career so far, or do I consciously decide I had a horrible experience. Therefore, I am going to make sure that this, person that I am guiding, mentoring, shepherding, conversing with, I am going to deliberately make sure that they have an experience that is polar opposite of the one that I had. And I love how you mentioned, break the chain, because it's a great visual when that decision is made. I am breaking the chain, and I am starting this new path that hopefully then I'm now teaching this person, and then they will have that same decision to make, whenever it may be posed to them. So I agree, Greg.
You wrote an article, and I'm jumping around here a little bit around results and objectives, and people will do almost anything to avoid doing the work. And I smiled and I listened to that, and I'm thinking, gosh, she's in my head, because I believe employees have become sloppy. They have become complacent and a little lazy. But again, who's responsible for that experience, and who allowed that behavior? And I love that you said, well, you said I could leave at 2 o'clock, I believe was in your article. And why are we talking about when they're leaving instead of the results that they've achieved that day or that week or that month or that quarter? So tell me what you were thinking when you wrote that article, because I believe the work from home, leave early, I'm entitled to go whenever I want because I'm doing my job. Where did all that come from? And the listeners share it in a way that listeners can maybe apply it to their own employee experiences.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right? Like in that one little sentence. And bottom line is, what I have found in my experience is that people actually like their work, right? Like they're in their job and the job they're in because something about the work has probably drawn them to it.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't like most of the time is how they are made to do it. How they have been given the prescription for how, when, and where that work that they probably like should happen. And that's then what leads to this kind of, disengagement and, people maybe, being in that state that I wrote about. They'll do anything to not necessarily get away from the work, but get away from how they're made to do it. So, that whole, yes, the time of day that I'm taking a walk, grocery shopping, playing with my kids doesn't matter if I am reaching the goals and objectives that I, have agreed to with whomever matters. And so I guess, the advice that I would give to anyone listening who is maybe feeling stuck because they have some sort of, mandate or prescription put out for them for how the work needs to happen, is make sure that you have clarity on what it is you need to achieve, for whom, by when, and kind of at what level, right? And if those questions are answered, and you have the answer, and whomever you're talking with, agrees, from there, the question then would be, can I then have the freedom, the autonomy, the kind of adult way of going about achieving all of this?
Yeah.
Hopefully the answer is yes. If the answer is no, then I think that's when the question comes back to us. Is this a place that I actually want to be? Or do I need to find somewhere else that's more of an adult workplace?
And it could be someone else. It's maybe I
Exactly.
love my
Yes,
work, but my leader is an asshole, or
that's right.
my boss, excuse me, my boss is a goofball. And I when you were sharing, I just wrote down, I love to coach and communicate in distinction. So you said it's not so much about the how, but it's the what. What are you really doing? What results are you achieving? What goals are you accomplishing? And then you said a beautiful word that I love, and it's clarity. And then you said even my favorite word, agree. Do both parties agree on what's going to get done, by when, by whom, And that's called alignment. That's called agreement. And when two human beings, two adult human beings with relative smart brains and great hearts agree on something, typically, if there's trust, it'll get done. And don't tell me
Yes.
how to do it because I know how to do it. That's why you freaking hired me.
That's right. That's
Let,
right. But you just said, Greg, one of my favorite words, which is trust. And that's a big word. I mean, it's a big word across our lives. I
it
mean,
is.
outside of work, talk about, relationships and um, friendships. I mean, trust is where it's at. And that
Because
is,
because isn't
it's,
that what
yeah,
the employee is going to say? Hey, Callie, don't you trust me? Now they may not have the courage to say that, but their actions
yeah,
about she won't let me leave it too, but I'm kicking my results all over the place. But she's stuck on I can't leave it too. But
mhm,
that's really not the issue. The
mhm.
issue is I don't believe Callie trusts me.
That's right.
And
That's exactly right.
so take me down and again, you're coming from employee experience. I'm coming from helping leaders become better leaders. So put your leader hat on. I want to be selfish for a second. Now
Mhm.
talk to the leaders out there and say to them, how can you focus on the why, the who, and the when so we don't have to focus on the how? What's a tip you might give them? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, all good. And yeah, I mean, you're in a nutshell asking, how can you help those, micro, managers out there let go a little bit. And I think one of the best things that I can say to anyone out there who may have those behaviors is try something new for even a week, right? Like, this is what I find in my experience. It's really hard for people that are a little bit more command and control to think about letting go forever, right? Like, here's Greg. We've agreed upon, what it is he needs to achieve, how he's being measured, what his service levels are. We're all clear. We're aligned. Wow. Now what? Can I trust him? And if I'm thinking, can I trust him now from now until, 2030 to do this? My head's going to blow up. Right.
Yeah.
But if I say for a week, I'm going to trust that Greg has things under control. We're going to talk on Friday and Greg's going to update me. But between now and Friday, I won't reach out to Greg. He can reach out to me if he
Mm.
needs something, but I won't be breathing down his neck every 23 minutes. Do you have this? Do you have that? Can we meet in an hour? I'm going to just breathe for a
Mm.
week. And when it comes to Friday, and Greg and I are talking, and Greg is giving me great updates, and everything is positively moving forward, that gives me, as the ultimate micromanager, a little comfort, not 100%. I'm talking like little, so that the next week, maybe I can do the same thing. Maybe, right? It's piece by piece
Yeah.
by piece. That would be my advice.
You mentioned also just reading about you said move from manager to results coach. Love that. You also said opportunistic versus authoritarian, and you
Mhm.
also said autonomy versus accountability. Pick one of those three and coach me through or discuss with me that the distinctions between those.
So, and I'm going to pick the last one. It is actually a balance between autonomy and accountability, right?
Okay.
If you have too much autonomy and not enough accountability, then you have, people kind of just running wild, but not working against anything that's been aligned on or clarified.
Yep.
So you need to have that kind of perfect balance of both. And if I bring it back to the parenting realm, and going back to what you said earlier, Greg, I mean, it would be nice if with my 4 kids, like I could control everything they did until they were, 18 and okay, you're on your own now, buddy. Um, but the autonomy accountability balance is the same thing as a parent, right? It's and my husband and I agreed early on, and thank goodness we agreed on the fact that, as they became teenagers, especially and got their driver's licenses, I mean, could we be those people that were monitoring their every moment? Yes. But our agreement was we're going to trust you until we don't,
Hmm.
right? So we're
Thank
going to
you.
give you the autonomy to make your own decisions. And we're going to lay the accountability out that if you don't make the right decisions, right, then there's going to be consequences. And knock on wood, Greg, up until 3 months ago, had four teenagers. They were between the ages of 13 and 19.
God
Well,
bless you.
but yes, four teenagers. And my husband and I look at each other all the time and say, it worked. This trust you until I don't. It worked. We had them, in situations at parties where they would call us and say, "Can you come get me? Like there's stuff going on here that I just don't want to be part of." And we thought they're doing this on their own. Like they're calling on their own, even though we've said free reign, dudes. Like you can do what you'd like, you make your own decisions, but they're doing the right thing. And I truly believe employees, in terms of mindset, it's the same thing, right? You give them the autonomy, the freedom, the liberation, the adultness to, make decisions, and you have the alignment on goals, metrics, everything. And it is a beautiful, beautiful thing when, people rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
and they do.
Yeah. And I'm hearing the similarity between the use of word autonomy and trust.
Yes, absolutely.
Because maybe it's an if then per se. It's a if I trust you and I do, then I will give you more autonomy. And I understand the not the distinction, but the balance between autonomy and accountability, because I believe the micromanager is trying to justify his or her micromanagement behavior by focusing on accountability. Now, maybe they weren't held accountable, but maybe they don't hold themselves accountable, but they really enjoy holding others accountable, which I find in my work quite a bit. And the autonomy says, I trust you. Go out and make the best decisions. And I love what you said earlier too. I will trust you until we won't. And if you apply that to work, what's wrong with just being a good parent? Oh, wait, I mean, a good leader at work.
I 1000% agree that, whether you're a parent, whether you're a leader in an organization or of a, community group, the best gift that you can get is being able to see that what you have impressed upon others when it comes to your trust, when it comes to your, ability to inspire and motivate, when that all starts coming to life, I think why my face does what it does when I talk about parenting, leadership, whatever it may be, because that's the end game. That's the end game that at least I'm looking for is what is my legacy going to be in whatever I do? What is the end state of what I have touched, and how are others going to hopefully take that forward?
Well, your Accenture tombstone will have a lot of beautiful adjectives on it. I know it. It just won't be the one we visit when we go through the graveyard many, many years from now and find Cali Ressler. There, it's going to have something that your children said about you, not your clients, and certainly not the
Mhm,
people that you.
mhm.
But I want to end with this. You said results matter, and I believe that leads to trust. It leads to a mindset of, do I trust Greg to get the results that we've agreed on? So it's talk about the why the results matter versus why the 2 p.m. Take us home on why we should focus our concentration, our attention, our relationships on the results and not on when someone needs to leave early.
Oh, Greg, you're right. This is a big one. And I'm going to start with something that I was just in conversation about within the last week with one of my dear colleagues here at Accenture, who focuses on psychological safety and kind of, the study of how the human brain operates. And it is a proven fact that, when it comes to neuroscience and how our brains are wired to operate, that they operate better when you are in a state of being able to work the way that is most productive and efficient and effective for you, in a place that is most productive and efficient for you, your flow state and
Mm-hmm.
your endorphins, everything chemical in your brain works better. And so, that is a very obvious question to ask of, anyone out there that's, putting down those mandates of, you must come into the office, 3 days a week, and it must be these certain days. The question is, are you getting the best out of your people by doing that?
Sure.
My clear answer would be no. And if you're happy with that, great. But if you're not, then it's time to question, how it is that you are leading. And at the end of the day, why do results matter versus dictating the how, when, and where? I think at the end of the day, it's about people, again, perceiving that they are being treated the way they want to be treated, to know they are able to give their all. And if I'm someone who at the end of my day, when I go to bed at night, I'm thinking, I feel like I'm being held back, right? I feel like I'm stuck, like I'm in a rut. I'm not going to give you my best tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that may be conscious or, or not, the next day, but there's something in me that will shut down. So having the focus on what it is I'm delivering and having conversations about that while I'm able to move in and out of my life the way I need to. I mean, that is the whole, I work to live, I don't live to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end game of that phrase.
Yeah. And I believe I don't believe in the phrase work-life balance. I've come to believe that we fit our work in our life. And we have one
Yes.
life. You have one nose, unless there's one on the other side of your head. You have two eyes. And when we see it that way, I believe we put it in perspective. Back to what we said earlier. We're human beings first. We're not titles. And I've walked a lot of grave sites and I've never seen CEO or COO or CFO on any tombstone. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners and I haven't asked you that you wanted to get off your chest or out of your head?
I think the one thing, and we have touched on it a little bit, indirectly, but just to put out there and build on, I guess, some of that, just be yourself, be human piece of things. That is something that I think we hear preached a lot, right? Be vulnerable, with your people, be yourself, be human. But I don't always see the reinforcement for that, or the positive reinforcement for that. And so I would just like to, I guess, accentuate the fact that I believe, in addition to giving trust, it's tied for the number one thing that anyone who is, a leader can be and do, in terms of being yourself, telling your story, sharing your experiences, being vulnerable, it is going to pay you back in spades. I
Mm,
mean, I can't tell you how many times I have, shared an experience of mine that I thought was little, right? But people have connected with me afterward, at work and said, I'm so glad that you shared that story. And so I mean, and like I said earlier, I don't really hold anything back now. I'm more comfortable in my skin in that way. So I know, not everyone is at that point. We're all on a different spectrum, but
sure.
being comfortable in your skin and sharing who you are and what you've been through is something that just it will not only lighten your own load, but it will help others also be able to follow in your footsteps.
Mm, yeah. Reinforce telling your story, being vulnerable, be human, be yourself. And I believe by behaving or exampling that kind of behavior as a leader will make others more comfortable and you, leader, more approachable. Yes?
Oh, I mean, approachable is another keyword, another one of my favorite words. It's one of the words that I will often use when people at work all the time say, "Well, what are they like?" Right? Like, I haven't met this person yet. What are they like? And if I view that person as approachable, that's the first word I use. They're very approachable, and it puts people at ease.
Hmm.
Right? Oh, thank goodness! I was hoping to hear that.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I love that.
Well, I'm going to write an article here soon. It's called Approachable versus Approaching. And I believe approachable is a start, but I want our leaders to approach and say, "Hey, Callie, I know you're new. We haven't met. I want to introduce myself. I want you to know I see you, I hear you, I believe in you." And they're not going to say all that, but your actions
Yes.
say all of that. And I'm always looking for, and again, I love approachable, but I also say that if you say my door's always open, I'm approachable, knock on it anytime you need something, the timid are never going to
Mhm.
take you up on it. The approaching is the timid is at the desk. Here comes Callie. Oh my God, what does she want? What does she want? Well, wait a minute. She's smiling. She's coming over here to say something really nice. And then you leave and she goes, "Oh, wow, Callie's really nice. But how
Yes.
would I know if you didn't approach?" So
Yes.
a whole nother segment we should do on that another time. But thank you. Thank you for being human. Thank you for being approachable. And thank you for living what you're asking others to do, Callie. Seriously, that is there's so many people that say one thing and behave another way. And I've only known you for 48 minutes. So how do I know? I just do. I do this for a living. I can see it in your face. And Tennille recommending you doesn't hurt either. But anyway, thank you. And I
Thank
want
you
to
for having me.
my pleasure. This has been fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Walk your talk. I think that's what I would leave people with too. I walk your talk.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen. Because I say this every podcast, but just like our kids, our employees are not always listening, but they're always watching us
Yes.
and they see how you're
Yes.
behaving. So thank you for that reminder. And again, Cali Ressler with Accenture, the director of talent and organization consulting, global employee experience, huge title, big opportunities. But what I hear from you is you just live every day with a smile and you help people along the way and you're focused on helping companies work on their employee experience. And that's gold. That's gold out there today. So with that, I say go out and be you, be yourself, walk your talk, be kind. I always remind people to be kind. And God bless. Thank you very much, Callie.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you soon.